Dude, this is super weird. Dude, you bring toilet paper. You can get that. Have to hose you down first. All right. Right. Let's go. Oh, welcome to Talk Heathen. Today is March 22nd, 2020. Season something, episode something.
Season 4, episode 13.
Season 4, episode 13. I'm Eric Murphy.
Or 12, rather. 12. Hi. It's all a blur.
With me today is Bianca. V.
Hi.
We're not at the studio.
No, we're in a bunker.
We are.
Ground.
We're recording from an undisclosed location. Actually, you know what's funny is just out of concern, making sure we're social distancing, everything that we can. We are nowhere near the building where the crew, the skeleton crew, all three members, our call screener, our audio engineer, and our producer braved the wild. Can we move over to the screen, the camera for the crew, please? Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. We do not obviously have a live studio audience, and that is absolutely okay. We want people to stay safe, and we're doing our best to stay safe.
Yeah.
How was your week?
It's just a week.
Yeah.
Feels like longer than a week.
Hasn't it?
But also, honestly, I think it's the cool thing to do, to be like, oh, I need to go outside and see people and do things. And I'm like, this has just been a slightly lazier week than normal for me.
Well, I don't know. The fact that you came over has been like the social event of the week for me.
Oh yeah, no.
So I've been just being locked away, having somebody else over. It's funny how quickly you become scared of things.
Oh yeah, no. Going outside was like, oh my god, there's no cars on the road. The trains all stopped on the tracks. It's interesting. It's interesting, but that is okay. Let's see. This last week, I guested on a couple things. I was on Math Pig's show. Yeah.
I was on The Daily Atheist. I actually recorded with another Christian apologist so that I can start getting stuff out on my channel. And I'm working on my podcast again.
Nice.
I'm so excited.
Awesome. You've been busy. And we both had speeches for Atheist Day.
Yes, we did.
Yesterday.
Absolutely. If those of you who did not get to see the Atheist Day speeches, definitely check out the speaker series. It is another channel that's set up. We had a whole bunch of really awesome people in there. We had Matt Dillahunty, we had Mandisa Thomas, we had Jimmy, or Mr. Atheist.
Aaron Ron, his dog, made an appearance.
That was hilarious.
I died laughing.
That was incredible. I loved that so much. You were there. I was there. It was just a good time.
And
Definitely.
you were there.
That said, we do have full lines.
That's amazing.
I'm so ready. Who do you want to take first?
Looks like Marlon called back.
Ooh, Marlon in the Philippines. You're talking to Eric and V. How are you doing today?
What's up, guys? How are you?
We're hanging in there.
Yeah, trying to be safe. How about you?
It's just over early morning here, and just want to talk to you guys.
That's all right. What do you want to talk about?
Shout out to all the Filipinos out there again. Thank you.
Definitely.
By the way, strap your seatbelts, Eric, because we're going to go on a little time travel here. I'm going to give a history lesson, the Bible.
I want to be able to have a conversation. So as long as I'm not being talked at, but talked to, we should be okay.
I want to talk about the Tel Dan Steel, which is another term for the House of David Stone. It is a archaeological evidence for the biblical events because it has the inscription House of David. And from what we can read in the Bible, David was the shepherd boy who slayed the giant Goliath and was actually propped on the throne.
So,
based from my secular
Marlon,
source.
I want to, Marlon,
Yes.
your question, man. So if are you saying that if there is something in the Bible that correlates to the real world, that everything in the Bible is also true? Because I have no problem.
Yes.
Yeah, I have no
Because
problem saying that it could have depicted actual historical places. I've used the Spider-Man analogy with you plenty of times before, haven't I?
yes, but my problem is that Spider-Man has never been talked about on the History Channel nor on National Geographic or
So
the
what?
Discovery Channel.
So what? The reasoning is the same. The logic is the same.
I mean, Spider-Man doesn't have a museum,
So
doesn't feature
I don't care,
historical
Marlon. Marlon, the logic is the
documentaries.
same.
Yes.
The logic is the same.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Do you understand that the logic is the same, right? You're saying here's a historical place here's a place that's depicted in the book, right? Because I can
Yes.
see that the place is depicted in the book, therefore everything else in the book is true. So I can pull out the Spider-Man argument and say, hey, Spider-Man, that comic takes place in New York. And because I can show you that New York is a place, therefore Spider-Man exists. The logic is the
Yes,
same.
but what I'm talking about is that these biblical events were featured on the history of Israel.
So
It's a topic posted on the History Channel website.
so are
Where
ancient
it talks
aliens. Do you
about
believe in those?
King David and King Solomon, as well as the building
So,
of the nation of Israel during after World War II.
right, Marlon, the reason, so
Yes.
imagine we are 2,000 years in the future, okay?
Okay. Yes.
And we still have some version of the History Channel in the future, 2,000
Yes.
years from now. And we
Okay.
find New York City buried under an ice cap or something. And that now, because it's history, is on the History Channel, right?
Yes.
Does that mean that we can then say, here is New York City in an ice cap from 2,000 years ago, so Spider-Man must have existed?
No.
Right. Yeah. I think we're on the same page there.
Right. So
But-
why aren't you applying that same kind of reasoning to what you're talking about?
I just stumbled upon this topic because I read that it's part of the history of Israel along with the
Here-
declaration of their independence after World War II in 1945.
So here's my thing here, Marlon, and it's going to determine your calls in the future and whether or not
Okay.
you get to make them. And that is, last time you called in, you wanted to talk about jellyfish, right?
Yes. Yes.
Looking back at that, how do you feel about that argument? Are you still convinced by it?
Well, not
Do you think
really.
they can plug themselves into a wall and get powers? Do you think that powers are something that are gifted down by God to creatures as some kind of like what I really want to do is I want to keep working on your epistemic framework. I want to keep working on the strengths that you're building. What I don't want to do is I don't want to give time to somebody who is waiting their turn to talk, not actually thinking about it, and then just continuing to go. That's why Atangelo is not allowed to call back.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So are you working on that? Is that something that you're thinking about in between these weeks? Is that something that you're progressing through?
Well, yes, I have been watching some of Aaron Russ videos and
Okay.
I'm on the topic for evolution. And there's a statement that he made that really struck me. I
Yeah.
thought about it when he said that on life, I mean, RNA is talking about RNA molecules. RNA and RNA doesn't. No one created RNA. RNA duplicates itself. I think I heard that line when he was debating the creationist, and I really searched on it.
All right. I'm grateful that you're doing that. I'm grateful that you're challenging yourself. You're looking at it and you're flexing those muscles and been practicing that.
And I can see even in the 2 calls so far, Marlon, that you're moving in the right direction, right? At first, you came to us with an idea, and we debated the possible probability of that idea and kind of the scientific background of the concept of immortal jellyfishes. And then you went away, and now you're coming back, and you've got sources, right? And you're going to places where you think are valid, valuable sources, like the History Channel.
Yes.
We can debate whether or not it is, but the instinct to then go find resources from respected groups and media is a good next step. Now we have to talk about, again, the epistemology and the tools you're using behind that.
And there's also a fragment of the Gospel of John located in the John Ryland Library in Manchester, England. What do you guys think about that?
I think that fits very nicely into the example that V gave you earlier. And that just because it's told doesn't mean it's true.
First, the inscription about Pontius Pilate, Jesus Christ talking when he asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And then from another secular source, on the account of Tacitus, he had admitted, the Roman Empire had admitted that they crucified Jesus Christ.
Hold on a second. Are you bringing up Flavius Josephus? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah, read back through it. They do not say that they crucified Jesus Christ. Also, even Christian scholars, modern Christian scholars, have shown that there have been parts of that have been added later on. I mean, Flavius Josephus was meticulous in a lot of things, and if there were a time when people came back from the dead and walked through the streets as depicted after Jesus dies in that story, it would have been mentioned. You think? Didn't Jesus talk about when to replace your sandals? You know, it's so meticulous. The idea that would just be forgotten or left out is ridiculous. But even Christian scholars have gone, you know what, the part where he references Jesus as the Christ is obviously written in later, because that, number one, wouldn't be what Josephus would have known Jesus as.
Right.
You know, that was a moniker that was added later. So definitely go back and look into that. Even Christian scholars would say that some of those pieces that you mentioned didn't really...
Isn't the situation that they just didn't have the technology at that time, you know, they didn't have the printing press and the early cameras.
Well, that's a good point. So if Jesus really wants to get the message out to everybody, why did he come to Earth at a time when we didn't have technology and the printing press and iPhones that we could film the crucifixion and resurrection with? That would make a lot less atheists, I bet.
Yeah, it'd be a good start. But
there's also the tribute penny, you know. Yes, Eric.
Sorry to keep jumping in. I know there's a bit of a delay in the call because we're piping our audio over to the studio, who's sending it over to you on the other side of the planet, and it's going back the other way around. So I think that there's. I don't think you're talking over us, and I'm trying not to talk over you. It's just kind of one of those artifacts that we're going to have to deal with today. But we have gone over a couple of topics, and we do want to make sure that we give time to other callers. But hopefully that gives you something to chew on.
By the way, can I just squeeze in one more topic? What do you guys think about the biblical recipes? I mean, there's the recipe for the manna from heaven that was featured in the book of Exodus. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I know that I used to make lembas bread out of a recipe from
Unleavened
online,
bread. Yeah.
and I mean that's cool. I've made food
I was thinking that
recipes
class
before.
teaches people how to grow plants and advance agriculture after Adam and Eve were kicked out of the Garden of Eden. You know,
No, that's if you accept that that was there at the time. I think
yeah.
it's far more likely that, well, number one, we'd have to determine whether or not that Adam and Eve were ever a thing, which I don't think you could. But if you
Then
accept
Cain
that
and
back
Abel.
then, that Torah is what taught people agriculture, I think is very silly. I think that you're putting the cart before the horse on that one. That said, it's good talking to you, man, and stay
You're
safe out
like
there.
a best friend to me, man. You're like a best friend. Love the new
Oh,
hairstyle, by the way.
yeah, big hugs. Well, virtual hugs because
Fist
coronavirus.
bumps.
Anyway,
Sorry.
take it easy, man. Alrighty. Yes, this is my very, very subtle cue. We're moving on to the next call so that the people who can actually activate the calls and do the calls.
Right, because we don't have that access here.
No, we don't.
We're actually Skyping with our call screener who is sharing his screen on one of the many screens here.
Absolutely. Oh, you know what? I was thinking about turning this around to show it, but there are phone numbers.
Yeah,
So
let's not do that.
Yeah, let's not do that. What I do want to say is that what we're putting out is a volunteer effort with the atheist community of Austin. Everything that goes into the live chat, as far as donations, everything that gets sent over does not get sent to us. It gets sent to the 501c3 nonprofit that is the ACA, and is getting put to good work, good use. And we have some amazing volunteers who are putting themselves out there so that we can continue to do this. If you like what we do and you're able to, I know it's tough times right now, but if you're able to, please consider becoming a patron. You can go to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen to me. 2/3 of the way through the episode, I'm going to be thanking our top 5 patrons and refreshing it on this computer right here, which might be a problem. Maybe you can pop it up on your
Yeah, we'll figure that out when the time comes.
We'll figure it out. That said, definitely we would sincerely appreciate it. Also, I saw the link for our merchandise.
Yes.
The rollout of our new intro and logo are getting pushed back because, the plague.
Because of the plague.
But that does mean that people have time still to get merchandise with the old logo before we remove it forever. So if you'd like to, you can go to bit.ly/AEN merch and pick up some Talk Heathen swag. We'd sincerely appreciate it. That said, you ready to move on to the next call?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Line 3, Carlos in Texas.
Yeah.
Can be. How you doing?
Hello.
Good. How are you?
Doing all right. Sounding a little windy over there, my friend.
Oh yes, I'm at a little place with some dogs and nice out here.
So,
I go to a better place if you want me to.
please
In my
do.
car.
In the meantime, while you're moving to that better place, what did you want to talk to us about today?
Well, I was wanting to make a comment about intelligence, free will. I think intelligence is a great gift from God, and it's used for very good reasons for humankind. And also intelligence.
Carlos, I'm getting 7 out of 10 words.
Mm-hmm.
So you might need to slow down a bit just because I think the delay in the line might be making.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, I think so. Could you start again? What did you want to talk about?
I was saying that a couple of things, like mentioning that I think intelligence is a very great gift from God, That is
You
very
think
good for humankind.
intelligence is a gift from God? Is that what you said?
Yes, and also
Okay.
intelligence.
Well, let's start.
Intelligence.
Let's start there.
But also, I want to finish. Finish there. Okay.
Go ahead.
Intelligence also is the best ally, the best tool for evil.
Okay.
And the other one is free will. I think will is
Okay,
alive.
Carlos,
Yes.
you're jumping all over the place. I can't address all of those at the same time. So
Because I was making the comments only, but I would like to start a conversation. Go ahead.
I didn't hear that at all. Did
I
you?
didn't catch that. Can you say that again, please?
Yes, I'd say that we can start a conversation.
You know what? Let's pop you on hold and talk about that a little bit. And Carlos, try calling us back to see if we can establish a better connection. It's coming in really, really difficult. And I'm looking at the live chat, and people are having trouble. We're having trouble hearing you, man. But try calling us back, and we'll see if we can get you through, because that is a really good topic. Free will and intelligence. What do you think?
Free will and intelligence. I don't think they're necessarily contingent upon one another. It sounded like he was kind of going down the route of, I don't want to make the assumption about his argument, but it sounded kind of like he was going to try and connect the fact that we have intelligence to the fact that we have free will.
Maybe I was getting hung up a lot earlier than that. When you said that intelligence is a gift from God.
Oh yeah, well that would have to be the starting point. Why do we think that?
I mean, can you gift intelligence? Like, can I gift intelligence? Is that
God?
Well, what does that look like? How is that a thing?
No, I've had similar conversations the last couple of days with people on Twitter about, okay, tell me how prayer helps this virus. Like walk me through the physics of it. Like, how does it interact? Like, and actually trying to get that level of thought into, okay, so you're using kind of metaphysical concepts and the real world in the same sentence, like they interact with each other. And even granting the unlikely possibility that there is a metaphysical construct like a God to grant intelligence in the first place, the question then becomes how does that happen? Like, can we measure it? Can you walk us through it? Can we test it? And kind of on the opposite end of that, what would convince you that maybe it wasn't a gift from God? Are there tests that we could run in front of you? Are there studies that we could show you that would make you maybe reconsider that hypothesis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in having that conversation. I hope he calls back, and I hope we can get a better connection. That's for sure.
Yeah.
In the meantime, let's talk to Ethan on line 5 from Chicago, Illinois. Ethan, you're live with Eric and V. How are you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
We are trying our best to stay safe. How about you?
I am doing the same.
All right.
Good.
Perfect.
What did you want to talk about today?
Background. I spoke to you like 3 weeks ago. I was the guy that when you answered the phone, I screamed, dude, because I got really excited.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah, I get excited. Anyway,
okay.
I have since hosted, I started doing that debate show for several weeks now since then. And someone reached out to me who was on your show about a year ago. His name is Charlie. He is a trans individual who recently came out, and his parents forced him into an exorcism against his will. Do you recall this phone call?
I remember Charlie. Absolutely. We kept in touch afterward. I wound up having to kind of curtail the number of conversations I was having with people because it was interacting with my ability to do stuff in life. But that said, I was happy to keep up with Charlie while I could. Was that a fruitful conversation? I'm trying to see where we're going.
I'm sorry. I'll make it quick. So this Thursday, he asked me to sit down with his parents and pastor on my show to try and help the situation, because apparently the father refuses to acknowledge or use the proper pronouns and is convinced that he is possessed by a demon. I am vastly underqualified to take on something like, and I've done my best to explain that this could go bad, and we have to frame this as a discussion, not a debate, if we want to make progress. But I'm out of my wheelhouse here. So any tips from you or the community on how I can deal with this situation, since it will be him, his brother, the mother, father, and the pastor.
Sure.
I feel like it's going to make not only an interesting stream, but I'm terrified because I don't know how to handle it other than trying to keep the peace and trying to give them a better understanding of his position.
So, yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on with wanting to frame it as a discussion and not a debate. The more that you can sit on the same side of the table as them, the more hopefully receptive they'll be, because they're ready to, they're going to be coming in not willing to listen.
Yeah.
And really the scary thing here, the tough part is with this show, we're not expecting to change the minds of callers. We're not expecting them to, ding, light bulb moment. What we're hoping is that people who are watching are getting the opportunity to challenge their ideas and their beliefs and the way they look at things without feeling that backfire effect, without feeling like they need to defend themselves.
Right.
And that's great for this format. But if your goal is to change a single person's mind because you can't reach into their heads, there's a chance that there's nothing you can say. There's a chance that there's absolutely nothing you could say that's going to convince them.
You're very right. I wish there was a way where we could just I don't know. My goal is to just make his life way easier, even if they are not necessarily in support. But if somehow we could just get these people to show a little compassion, I feel like it would make the world a difference in Charlie's life. I
think you're right. I think what's worked, at least in my life, is when I removed the subject of religion from it, and I said, "Hey, I'm your son. I'm your nephew, and I love you. And the way that you've been, treating me and this kind of behavior isn't healthy, and it's not okay for me. And you get to decide the relationships that you have in your life. And if you're going to continue to do this, then I can't maintain that relationship. I can't keep that relationship. You're not forced to be in an abusive relationship. You can make a choice. It can happen. Now, with everything that's going on right now, it's definitely going to be more impacted. Maybe they're forced to live together. Maybe they're,
right.
So I don't know. I don't know what to say, man. What do you think, V?
All right.
I applaud your desire to help. I can hear in your voice that this is a real concern for you and that you truly care about this other person and you want to make a difference. I also think that you're probably right, and you might find yourself out of your depth pretty quickly, especially if the way that it's being set up, it sounds like you are going to be outnumbered 4-1 in your defense of Charlie. And I don't think that it would be very helpful to... I'm trying to think of a way where you can still have this stream, you can still have this conversation, but in a way where it's not putting the entire burden of that defense on you. Is there a way that you could get some other people involved on your side, or maybe whittle it down so that you're not facing down both parents and a pastor?
So I did speak to one individual, and this is where I'm on the fence. He's Christian, but he is gay, and he believes that he could help balance the conversation, because if they could see that an atheist and a Christian are both working together to benefit Charlie, that maybe that would have a better impact on them. The problem with that is I'm obviously don't want to promote Christianity, but I feel like maybe if they see another perspective or two people who fundamentally disagree working together, that could have an impact on them. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that that's a good idea. I think that, yeah, we have to be careful who we're platforming and giving attention to. But I also know that on the other shows that I'm on, Secular Sexuality in particular, I've had several queer Christians who have made that their identity. And we've been able to have some really productive discussions that are reaching across that aisle. And as Eric said, kind of being on that same side of that table. So I think that's a good instinct. I would encourage you, if the other person is willing to do so, to do that. I would almost encourage it to be, maybe have the pastor on, have this gay Christian spokesperson on, and have you on, and maybe leave the family element out of it for now. You can still represent Charlie, and the pastor will still be representing the parents, but it might make it a little bit more manageable and stay in a space where it doesn't damage emotionally anybody involved, if it can be more kind of the representatives can be talking instead of the actual people. That's how I would approach it. And I think it might be easier for you to manage, so you don't fall into the role of counselor, which is something we do on the show quite often. We'd have to straddle that line between we are going to talk to people who have real problems and often no one else to talk to. But we have to also be sure that we are not giving medical advice. We are not giving, psychological advice, because we're not trained in that.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, I think that would be my 2 cents, is maybe adjust the format a little bit, have those 3 viewpoints on, and format it as a discussion. And then say, hey, we're doing this for Charlie, maybe tell some of Charlie's story, and maybe leave the family to watch and respond as they will.
Okay, I like that.
Also,
I do have one. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no worries. I think we've got that little bit of delay in the line. That's all. What I was also going to say is consider going to our Discord. I know that we put the Discord link in the description, and also our producer just popped the link, the tiny.cc/ACA Discord, on the lower third right now. There are tons of awesome people there. And if you want to, work on bouncing off ideas, that is a great place to go.
Yeah, I would absolutely love that. And after this call, I will jump on it. One follow-up question.
Sure.
May I just say the name of the show I'm hosting and how people can contact me? Because I'm definitely looking for any tips or help, specifically from the LGBTQ plus community, because I am vastly undereducated in this. I'm a cisgendered white 37-year-old. So,
but you're also recognizing, your limitations. And the funny thing is actually part of the talk that I gave yesterday was, if you're looking at starting a YouTube channel, now is the time. We need more voices. Nobody's turning off, their TV going, there's just way too much atheist content out there. So I'm glad you're doing it.
Yes, definitely.
We do want to support that. And I do think that a rising tide lifts all boats. What's the name of your channel?
So on YouTube and Facebook, it is Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist. And my name is Ethan Michael, Micheal, not AEL.
All right.
Wonderful. Well,
Cheers,
guys,
man.
hey, go check out
your help.
Ethan's stuff, and keep an eye out for him in the Discord, so that
definitely. And also for those of you watching, it takes time to develop that skill set. If you go back and watch early episodes of Talk Heathen, I'm a wreck. So Ethan, keep at it, stay consistent, keep putting out content, and I hope to talk to you and hear how it went.
Have a great one. Thank you both for your help, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you,
Take care,
Ethan.
brother. All right. That was nice.
Yay, allies.
Yeah. So I am looking at the live chat and people are going, wow, that video quality is kind of terrible. The funny thing is, it's kind of my fault. We're in a home studio and we're sending this video and audio signal over to our amazing crew, our producer, audio engineer, and call screener, who are at the ACA right now, who are taking that, putting it all together. Hey, everybody.
Woo.
I can't how I just want to say over and over again how grateful I am that they're there. But because it's getting bounced around and all of that, the video quality is going to be going in and out a little bit. We're doing our absolute best, but this is not shot live in front of a live. Well, it is live.
It's live.
It's not in front of a studio audience today. We're trying to stay safe, and so we are broadcasting from my home studio.
Yeah.
Actually, this is where I do my other channel.
And
So
the true fans would know that.
oh gosh,
I'm not negging. I'm negging. I'm sorry.
a little bit. That's okay. Let's see if we got a better connection from Carlos, because I really was interested in what he had to say. Carlos.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call. I apologize for I was outside and I didn't realize it was that noisy. It doesn't feel that noisy out here.
No worries. I'm glad that you went inside. You definitely sound a whole lot better.
Yes.
It is a little muffled, but we can hear you. So go right ahead. What did you want to talk about today?
I just wanted to make a couple of comments. One is about intelligence. I think that intelligence is a great gift of God that is very helpful to humankind. But also intelligence is I think it's the best ally, the best tool for evil. And the other one is the will, free will. I think your will is your life, and that's what God gave you.
So
we can elaborate and start conversation from there if you like.
Well, let's start with intelligence being a gift. How did you determine that intelligence was something you can give someone?
Well, that's what
if you went back outside, it got real loud again.
No, I'm fine. I'm here. I'm inside my car. That's what happened.
Gotcha.
Well, we all know how good is intelligence for humankind, science, how we progress, how we know better about our existence.
That wasn't my question. You said that intelligence is a gift from God, right?
Yes.
So until you can show that that's a thing that can happen, it's nonsense, right? I can say intelligence is a gift from anything, right? Intelligence itself is not something you can hand to someone. It's a quality that we use. I don't think that statement makes any sense at all. Can you help me understand why you think that? How did God give intelligence? Who is God? How can God do that? What else has God done? Is God holding back on all of the other nice things? How did you determine this? Because it sounds like you called in with this assumption that we were just going to agree with you. Oh, yeah, no, intelligence is a gift from God, and then go from there. No. How? Help me.
Okay, well, let's leave it as take off the great gift of God and just let's leave it like that. Intelligence is something great for humankind.
Okay, I'll agree. Right. Intelligence is awesome.
Exactly.
Okay, now what?
And also, it's the best ally and the best tool for evil.
Intelligence is the best tool for evil.
I don't. The best ally.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, people like Hitler per se, he was surrounded by very smart, intelligent scientists, but they used it for bad.
Well, I think that people can behave in a lot of different ways. I don't understand where we're going with that. I understand that you don't get mad at a wolf for hunting and killing its prey, right? You don't get mad at the lion for eating the gazelle, and you don't treat them the same way that you would a person. And so we're looking at a person, and I understand that we can now ascribe qualities, whether or not they're behaving morally, or they can understand that what they're doing has a negative impact on the world around them. While that's true, I don't think that that's what you're saying. How is that useful? How can we engage with that idea? It just feels like
I could agree with you to an extent, Carlos. I think I could say intelligence is powerful, and power can be used for good or for evil based on the person wielding that thing, that tool, right? So bring a Lord of the Rings up, but that one ring, Tom Bombadil could be like, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm not tempted." Gandalf, on the other hand, was like, "I'm not touching it because it's too powerful." So I think that intelligence is powerful, and often power corrupts, and you can use intelligence to do evil things, but I'm unclear why we're talking about that. Where is that going to get us?
Well, because in the Bible, it says that God hid the truth from the wise, something like that.
Carlos,
and gave it to the humble in heart. Yes.
do you think that I believe that?
No, I don't think you believe it. I don't even. I honestly, I don't think you understand what the Bible's saying, because when people talk about the Bible, you use your intelligence to go in the other direction against the Bible.
Well, could it also be that you could be wrong?
I don't think so.
Well,
Wow.
then that's really sad, because when you're that stubborn, what's the point in having a conversation? When you reference the Bible, it's funny because I grew up a Christian. You're talking to a former Christian,
Same.
right? You're talking to two former Christians, and both of us, I understand the idea. Well, it says so in the Bible, as if that's an authority. But if you don't believe what's in there, then it's not an authority. And so when you reference something that happened in the Bible, I don't care. I can reference something that happens in any book of fiction. That doesn't mean that I hold any reverence for it. And it's not just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I don't understand it. What you're doing is you're writing me off. You're deciding, I don't need to listen to this person because they just don't understand. It's condescending. I don't think you're doing it on purpose. I think it's something that Christians do a lot, and I want to address it. Carlos, do you understand? Can you see how it is incredibly condescending to say that?
No, I understand your meaning. But also, I realize that you personally, if you are mentioning yourself in this in your statement, but you don't have ancestors that know about what happened thousands of years ago when the Bible was written. You don't speak all Hebrew. You don't speak Hebrew, I don't think. So actually, the Bible wasn't made for you. The Bible was made for the Jewish people. Also, I'm not a religious man. I don't have any religion. So this is not a religious point of view. I just realized that there's no way you can understand the Bible because it wasn't written for you. It was written for the Jews.
It sounds like you understand the Bible, or you think you do. Can you speak ancient? Can you speak Hebrew?
I could say yes, I do understand the Bible.
Okay, so
the part that I've read.
So you used a argument tool that I think I want to tackle, because I want you to have the best tools available to discuss things with people. Okay.
All right.
It's called the argument from personal incredulity. Have you heard of it?
Go ahead.
Sure. Or the argument from incredulity.
Yeah.
There's no way that you understand this, or I don't understand this. Therefore, I'm right. Right? You don't speak Hebrew, and because of that, I'm right. So when you're appealing to a lack of understanding, you're actually not providing evidence for your claim. All you're doing is trying to write off the other person. I actually had a discussion with somebody on my personal channel who said that if the other side says, I don't know, then you win. As if I don't know is somehow failing. When you say I don't know, you give yourself permission to explore, you give yourself permission to learn, and I think that engaging, honestly is fantastic. But when you say something like that, I think that, that argument for personal incredulity, you're not helping your own case. And what you're saying to us is, I'm closing my ears off. I'm closing myself off as a person instead of listening to what you have to say. You don't know, therefore I'm right. Could I use that? I could use that. I could say you don't know physics, therefore you can't make any claims about the physical world. Is that fair? No.
Okay. What happens is that I think, and I believe that the Jewish people were the chosen ones. That's why, if you don't understand the Bible, it's understood, because the message was supposed to be sent to the Jewish people.
And with that, Carlos, you have shown us that you are waiting your turn to talk. You're done.
Okay, I've got a couple. Like,
Oh,
all
did
right.
I? Sorry.
If it's meant for the ancient Hebrews and we just can't understand, why the fuck are you calling?
Yeah.
Like, what is it supposed to prove that, like, if we can't understand it because it wasn't meant for us, then why should we care? And why should we listen to you? Also, I don't speak Hebrew, but I took 3 semesters of Koine Greek and translated scriptures myself. And I spent way, way too many hours in theology and Bible history classes to be told that I don't fucking understand the Bible. I don't know why today is the day that I'm annoyed by that, but today's the day I'm annoyed by that. I get that almost every single day on some social media. And today I'm just... You
know, what's funny is when people do that, you have exegesis and hermeneutics.
Yeah.
And what kills me is I've talked to apologists who say, well, you're not applying exegesis and hermeneutics. You're not, looking at it in its original context and language. And so I say, okay, can I apply exegesis and hermeneutics and come up with the same conclusion, right? Is this a tool? Are you using that properly?
Yeah.
Or can I use exegesis and hermeneutics to come up with an entirely different story out of it with entirely different context? And they've never said, no, you should do that. Because that's not what those tools are for.
Right. That's how we end up with, 3,000 denominations?
Yeah.
Because they all use the same tools to get to different conclusions.
Which has a whole, exactly.
Yeah. I'm annoyed. I apologize to the next caller for being tangentially annoyed at you.
Well, that said, I really want to talk to Sam in the UK.
Let's
Sam,
talk to Sam.
You're live with Eric and V. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you guys doing?
Doing
Trying
good.
to stay safe. What do you want to talk about today?
Well, there's slavery in the Bible.
Slavery in the Bible.
Why justified?
You think slavery in the Bible is justified?
Well, I've heard many Christians say, the Bible doesn't condone slavery, but from my reading, it does. God does allow slavery.
Okay.
Okay.
We need to accept it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing is, if you're an atheist, it can be hard for you to accept, even if you believe it, because you're thinking, that God is all meant to be all good, but we don't really understand God. God is kind of, the way I see it, it's kind of like a high level. He's the author of our reality. He can create and destroy wherever he wants here, and we can't.
How dare we make any
judgment the way we?
Yeah, so that's actually another fallacious type of way of arguing. Did you hear the conversation that we had with Carlos just a few minutes ago?
Yeah, but Carlos is right. I mean, the Bible. You say you read the Bible. Is the Bible written for atheists or is it written for the believers?
What?
Atheists or what?
Is the Bible, who is it written for? Is it written for the believers at that time, or is it written for atheists?
Again? Really? Right after the last caller?
Maybe that's why he wants to talk about it.
Okay.
So.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm having trouble understanding where the conversation is right now.
Right. So if the Bible is not meant for atheists, then why should we listen to you as atheists?
Yeah. For atheists, it's hard to accept. unless you have evidence of God, then for an atheist, it's understandably hard to accept that this is from God because you're
I
coming from a
didn't
different
accept this when I was a
perspective.
Christian. When I was a Christian, the thing that led me out of my Christianity and into rational thinking was reading things like slavery in the Bible, like Paul's rampant misogyny. These things are things I didn't accept as a Christian after doing research and reading for myself. I didn't read the Bible as an atheist and suddenly go, I don't understand this anymore. What are these words? Are these words? No, I read them as a Christian with the preconception that God existed, that I was of the right religion, that I was saved, that Jesus existed. All of these things were presuppositions that I was bringing to the table, and I still rejected it as a Christian.
Yeah, but then when you read the Bible, but why do you, what did you learn about God? You know, did God in the Bible ever say he was all loving and he was going to forgive everyone and you know, everyone's going to get sort of, you know, a great life? There's nothing like that in the Bible. In the Bible, it's quite impartial, it's quite brutal, there's quite a lot, something disturbing. And the way I see it should make you think, you know, why does God, if I do believe in a God, why did a God write this down? And when you think about it, eventually it does start making sense, but you need to have, I think, what's it called? A lot more thinking about this.
I need to do more thinking about it.
So, so if we don't have the same conclusion as you, we need to think more. Is that the argument that you're making?
I'm saying it took me a long time to understand this because for a while, I was a bit upset about this slavery in the Bible, and I was looking at reasons of, you know, trying to kind of you know, say, oh, this slavery is not allowed because this and that. But if you read it properly, God does condone it, and it condones in the Quran as well.
Okay,
Yes. It took me a long time to sort of.
No, I get it. As I was deconverting, I had just about every possible version of God at some point. First, there was the, you know, triomni God, right? The one who's all good, all powerful, all knowledgeable. And, you know, the standard American Protestant Christian version of God. And then as I learned more and did more research, I was like, okay, maybe God isn't all powerful. Maybe God isn't all knowing. Maybe God isn't all good. Maybe it's some combination of these. So I've done that, you know, mix in the bag and pull out versions of God that fit with my worldview. My question then is, okay, look, okay, say we grant this God is not all good. This God is not all powerful. This God is not the triomni God that other Christians would posit. So what?
This is all powerful God. This God is all powerful, and because he's all powerful, all knowing, then from a God's perspective, it's okay to have all this suffering in the world and about all these bad things that happen here, because in the end, in the hereafter, God's going to make it all right and be perfect. But in this life, we're meant to accept.
That's bullshit. I'm sorry.
It's nonsense from an atheist point of view.
Global pandemic. You are saying it's all right because when you die, it'll be all better? Seriously, man? This is tone deaf as fuck. I'm sorry.
Then what is a God then? You know, what's your idea of a God?
I don't have one.
We're listening to you, and the God that you're bringing up is kind of a dick.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you look at what we know about God as humans, when we're born, we have no knowledge of God. The only way we learn about God, is through other people or through books. That's the only way we learn about who God is, or you know. So depending where you brought up in what religion or whatever, or where you brought up, you'll get that you know, kind of worldview from where you were brought up. And then when you get older, you're gonna sort of research yourself and find out, you know, if it is a God. But whatever you do, wherever your source is, it's going to be from some book or from someone else. So you got to decide, whether, you know.
Okay, so.
You're going.
So I
okay.
You don't know God outside of the books that talk about God and the people that talk about God. You're describing indoctrination, and I agree with that. How is this backing up your point?
So I'm saying you got to decide, okay. First of all, this God, you know, okay, if your God is all powerful, all knowing, you know, where is the evidence for that? You got to decide, okay, how am I supposed to, you know, believe that, without just, because people lie. Books are given written by, lying people. So you can't really trust the books.
Well, Sam, we're talking about two different things here. And we're kind of bouncing back and forth. And it's two things that we're talking about right now.
Because
Sam, hold on.
Once you realize God is all powerful.
Sam, hold on. We're talking about two different things here, and I want to try and bring the topic to one thing. We're talking about whether or not God exists, right? And you're backing that up by saying, how do we learn about God and how do we study and investigate that? And then the other piece that's being talked about right now is slavery moral? Can it be moral? And how to, what does that say about the character of that God? We could actually grant you the idea, okay, this, in the same way that we can talk about other fictional
Right. Okay,
guys,
fine. God
right?
has your attributes for the duration of this conversation. Why do we care?
Absolutely. And we can make judgments about that, right? We can talk about Voldemort,
right,
and go, what Voldemort did it was terrible, or Sauron, or any number of bad guys in fiction. We can talk about, whether or not their actions were moral or ethical, without granting that they exist. And so if we're talking about the ethical, moral character of that deity that you're describing, sure, we can have that discussion. But if we're talking about whether or not that deity exists, then we got to quit bouncing back and forth, because I don't know where to grab on or even begin this conversation in a meaningful way. Sam, you were put on hold because you were talking over me. So we're going to put you back on. What do you think of that?
Okay. Well, see, if you're looking for it, you have to understand what God is. Is he all powerful? Is he all knowing? Because if he is, and he can eliminate all people's suffering in the hereafter, and he can make everyone happier, then he's at a different level. And in the same way, you can't say a lion is wrong for killing a deer or something. In the same way, God is at a different level. You can't say he's wrong for causing death and misery in our lives.
Hold on. What kind of horse shit is that? So wait a second. Are you saying that your God is amoral? That there are no moral bearings that you can put onto God?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
That God is completely without ethic.
No, he's got ethic, but I'm saying, innit, we can't judge him the way we judge others.
Why not?
Because he's God. He's a different level.
Sorry, he quested long enough and he leveled up. Therefore, we can't talk about it. No, we can actually make moral judgments about decisions. Let's bring this up. Right? Have you heard about the veil of ignorance?
What's that? No.
No, the veil of ignorance, the idea, if you're talking about creating a society, right? We're going to put you in God's shoes, right? And you're going to get the opportunity to create your own world, right? Your own society. Right. The best way to do that is if you don't know who you are in that society. You can be a pauper or you can be a king. But the way that you build a society that is most equitable is if you do not know who you get to be in that society. Okay? So let's pull that God out, because I don't think that God would be okay with that. And I don't think you would be okay with that. And on top of that, I really do think that if I were to put that to you, Sam, if you could build a world without cancer, would you?
Depends on what you build that world for. You got to understand why God made this world for.
I didn't ask you that, Sam. I asked you, if you could create a world without cancer, would you?
As a human being, yeah, I would.
Know,
but if Sam, God, yeah,
I like how you're adding a whole bunch onto that to try and justify it. No, I think you're a more moral creature than your God, and I applaud you for it. And your God is a fucking asshole.
No, but you don't understand why we've been created for. It depends on.
You need to show that we were created before you can determine what it was for, can't you? Don't you?
Why? No, you don't. I mean, in the same way, you can discuss whether, some things, you can discuss whether what God does in the Bible, yeah. In the same way, you don't have to prove God exists before you discuss what he's done in the Bible, Got
it. Okay, so we're still talking about... Okay, I think we agree that your God is a fucking asshole. When you can tell me that God exists in the universe that we're in, then we can talk about that.
Sorry?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Thanks,
Yep.
Sam.
All righty. Who are we going to talk to? Like, I'm glad he agreed that, in as much as we're entertaining the idea so that we can determine whether or not that God is a moral creature. Cool. We both agree that God does things that you would consider immoral. Now, if you want to talk about whether or not we have the right to, I think that's a really weird appeal. But
Yeah, I don't know, man. Let's move to somebody else.
All righty, sounds good.
Someone else who tells me I don't understand.
Tyler in Mississippi. You're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about today?
Hello, Eric and V. So my argument is that the coronavirus proves the existence of the God of the Bible because the coronavirus epidemic was prophesied in the Bible in Revelation chapter 6 and Matthew chapter 24.
Okay. Do you recognize that can be something that anybody throughout history during any epidemic could say? Right?
Well, I do recognize that, but I think the end times markers are too strong with this one in particular.
That apocalyptic cults have been around since then, right? Like the Second Great Awakening in the United States was a time of apocalyptic preachers who were saying that the end times markers are nigh, that the end is nigh, right? At any given time, we can bring out, street preachers with cardboard signs saying repent. The question is, how did you determine that now is the time, and how should we take you seriously over the dude out on the corner with the cardboard sign?
Well, first of all, I just want to underline the fact that this coronavirus epidemic is different from all the other ones because of its potential. No other epidemic in history has had the potential to kill as many as this one.
Have you looked up the Spanish flu in 1918?
How about the Black Death?
Well, yes, but that was before 1492 when, Columbus is
Wait.
America for the second time after the Vikings.
Wait. Are you saying that 1492 was predicted in the wait, why are we using that as a marker?
No. It's in 1492. That's when globalism occurred. When all the human populations around the globe occurred. See, before that, all other epidemics and diseases were only centralized. Like, for example, the Black Death was only in Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. It was not on a global scale. And there have been some epidemics since then that have been global, such as the Spanish flu. They have not had the potential of lethality that this coronavirus has.
Are you an epidemiologist, Tyler?
I am not.
I'm not either. From what I've seen, it has been definitely compared to the Spanish flu. I think that it's something we should take seriously. But really, the thing that irks me, and the reason I wanted to take this call, is because I think that what you're saying could be used. I am not saying you're using it this way, but I'm saying it could absolutely be used for profiteering purposes. That it could be used to shame or scare people, right? To prey on their fears and tell them that you've got the answer. Now, let me ask you, Tyler, can you pray away the coronavirus?
Well, prayer can help, but no.
I didn't ask you. Yeah. Take a nap and say a prayer and a nap and your headache will go away.
Yeah,
right?
It's not 100% guarantee, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you understand that the line of argument that you're making is also being used to fleece people into putting themselves into danger?
Well, it could be.
It is. It is. Did you see in South Korea the church that ignored the arguments that or not the arguments, the order not to gather and congregate in large groups.
Yep.
And how there was a massive outbreak because that church just couldn't get it. You know, actually here in the United States, we don't even need to go out of the country. I think it was in Michigan. I was reading this morning that the governor decided, hey, you know, it's a good idea. The churches should still congregate. Where everybody else needs to make sure that they don't get together in large groups. It is their Christian duty not to let temporal laws affect the spiritual laws that are given by God to be able to pray however you want. This attaching religion to pandemic, the attaching it to fear, is something that I think needs to get stamped out, and I think it needs to be done toot sweet. Because the longer we allow that, the more we put people at risk of getting taken advantage of by the same arguments.
Well, but you could also, I mean, that's true with many things. For example, the theory of evolution was used for racist propaganda. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily racist. It's just that it was used for racist propaganda. So that doesn't necessarily invalidate my argument.
You're right. You're right. Although which is why I did not say that you are doing that. But I am saying that there's danger in that argument, right? I'm trying to be charitable and not just assume that you're, peddling snake oil like Jim Baker did, saying that colloidal silver will cure you of the coronavirus. By the way, here's a slop bucket, right?
Tyler, I've got a question for you. Let's move to the concept of this being predicted. If this was predicted, then I'm assuming you know what happens next.
The tribulation and
No, that's too broad. Give me more specific. What's something more specific that we can look for in the next month that will back this up?
Well, maybe not necessarily the next month, but in the upcoming years, we can look for nations rising against nations, and famines and pestilences and earthquakes.
That has been true for the entire history of.
You realize that wars still happen and have been happening, right?
So true, but we're right now we're in Pax Americana. It is an era of relative peace since World War II. Has been a whole lot of major wars going on, but it's going to be ramped up though.
I think there are a whole lot of vets who are pissed off and screaming at their screens right now. To sweep under the rug the armed conflict that this country has been in is bad enough, but to sweep under the rug the massive and numerous other conflicts that have happened between other countries that we're not involved in, the amount of horrible things that have been happening, you can point to that at any point in time. Any point in time, I can give you a country rising up against another country that is sufficiently vague to hide it. So no, that doesn't work. Try again.
It's comparing. For example, World War II was much more deadly than, say, the American Civil War. Doesn't mean the Civil War was good or wasn't, bad or anything like that. It's just that
let's go with that.
I'm just saying it's going to get worse.
So World War III, right?
Right.
That it's going to be something on the level of World War III. Okay. So for this to be an actual prophecy that you can falsify, you've got to give us a time frame.
Yeah.
Because if not, then what you're saying is, well, maybe at some point in the future, and the history of our species says that eventually, we're going to get into another big fight. Right? That is just how humans work. And so what that is that's an unfalsifiable claim. That's waiting until it eventually happens. Nostradamus did the same thing, right? It's unfalsifiable, dude. So why should we listen? Why should we care? You gave us one and we're giving you the response. No, that doesn't work. Try again. What is another one?
Wait, another what?
Another prophecy, because the one you gave, we just told you why that does not work.
There are multiple other
cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Such as when well, such as when it says that we would be in an era of globalism and interconnected knowledge and ideas and such, and that's never happened before recent
Where's
years
that?
to the
What
level that it has. Well, I don't have it on me. I don't have that one on me. I was going to read from you the ones that I had initially. I just remember that from reading the Bible a few months ago or so. But yeah, but the ones that I showed you.
The word globalism is in the Bible.
No.
Not in the times I've read it. I think that you're probably absorbing what your pastor's been saying. I've heard that from many a pulpit, but not in the Bible.
Yeah, definitely. My pastor was conflating what he saw in Revelation to stock our.
I think Kenneth Copeland said we have at least until 2026. God told him. So I don't know where you're coming from, Tyler. God and Kenneth Copeland have this figured out.
I mean, I'd say within the next 50 years, this is when it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to happen right now, but it is definitely the beginning of sorrows, is my point.
And I'm trying to determine how we verify that. You can say that, but you're going to have to convince me that that's the case. So give me something that we can look for give me a time frame in the next month, in the next year. Give me something specific, and then we will talk about it again once that thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you basically disregarded my argument about the wars and the famines and the pestilences, and
those things happen all the time. They're not extraordinary things. We can look at any point in time, anywhere in the world, and see somewhere dealing with a famine or dealing with pestilence or dealing with a war. So it feels like we can just wait for something to happen and then say, oh, yes, I choose this one. That's what's going to back up my belief.
And really, the danger here, Tyler, I mean, the danger here, dude, is you're saying in the next 50 years, so in your lifetime, right?
Right.
So we should be super afraid while, your lifetime. And then when you die, someone else will take up the mantle and say, well, during their lifetime. And it's been going on that way. There are people who structure their lives out of fear of the apocalypse.
Right now, they're the ones with all the toilet paper and canned beans, so we can't make too much fun of them. But
right? Oh gosh. Okay, if you want to get me pissed off and get me thinking about that. That said, there is a downside to this. There is a reason why we're holding your feet to the fire on this, because if you're wrong, then what you're doing is negatively impacting people's lives for the duration of their lives by making statements that can never be proved wrong, can only be proved right. And you're setting up a system that even after you go, even after you're long dead, people are continuing to do this. That's why it matters.
Right, but it was very specific in Revelation chapter 6 when it was talking about the fourth horse, the pale horse, when it said that the name that who sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth.
Okay, how many wars right now are being fought with swords?
Well, this is the book of Revelation draws heavily from metaphors, so this is not.
So highly specific, but also heavily metaphorical.
Got it. You do realize.
Well, yeah, you can be specific and
metaphorical
at the same time.
Like if it's so vague that you have to try and pull meaning from poetry, then it's not specific. Why wouldn't your God say coronavirus 2020?
Why wouldn't he give us the vaccine information?
And specifically also, why would your God give us coronavirus?
Because we sinned and rebelled against him.
Apparently only boomers.
Well, we did something bad and we were being punished.
Would you do that to a child?
I wouldn't give them coronavirus, but for example, I'd put them in timeout if they did something bad.
Are you equating the two? Are you equating people dying painfully from coronavirus to being put in timeout?
Well, they are on very different proportions, very different scales. For example, a child will not do something like kill somebody, usually.
Are you saying that only
But
people
that's
who have
what we
killed
do.
people get coronavirus and die?
No, but that's our sins are that bad. Our sins are as bad as, like, for example, me lying is as
Cool.
bad.
Well, a kid
in the
lies.
eyes of
Okay,
God.
okay, your kid lies.
Does that mean-
That's equal to killing someone, apparently. So why only a timeout? If all sin is equal to the
No,
word
it's not
sin,
Killing someone is not equal to lying, but the consequences eternally are equal.
Okay,
so then it's an unfair system. If the sins are not equal, but the punishment equalizes everything, then that's unjust.
not only that, but so hold on, because you're painting with such a broad brush that you're saying all of humanity deserves this, right?
Well, we
So if your kid fucks up, you go to your neighbor's house and spank their kid instead?
No, because I'm not their parent. God is basically, in this metaphor, God is the parent. He is the father of all of us. So we're all.
I think we should call child services. Anyway.
I don't have any children. I'm only 18, but yeah.
No, I'm talking
Not on
about
you,
your God.
on God.
Oh, okay.
Your God is an unfit parent.
Tyler, honestly, I want to be mad at you, but I just feel bad because the language that you're using is the language of abuse. I came from an abusive household. My mom was abused. I was abused by someone who used punishment to mean love. And when we were punished, it was because he loves us and he wants to correct us and we deserved it. And that's the rationale that kept us there for as long as it did. And it damaged all of us. And I feel bad for you.
Well, no, I'm not condoning necessarily corporal punishment, just punishment in general. Like, for example, if your child stole something, you would punish them somehow, not beat them or kill them or anything like that, but like put them in timeout or take away something from them. And this is the metaphor that I'm using that God uses to punish his children. But we did something much worse by rebelling against him.
What did I do? What did I do? Tell me what I did, Tyler, to deserve this. How did I bring coronavirus upon the world?
We rebelled against God.
Okay. So here's your homework assignment, Tyler. I want you to go to a children's oncology unit, and I want you to look those children in the eye and tell them that they deserve it.
Wait, what? No. I'm not saying...
Oh, sorry. You think that child cancer doesn't deserve it?
We didn't know. A child...
war-torn countries where citizens are mauled and massacred as casualties of war, as you know, just oops, that happened. You know, are you going to look at them and say they deserved it? Can you look them in the eye and tell them they deserved it?
They do not deserve to be killed. They deserve eternity in hell, just like I do, which is much worse. They do not deserve that because God never condones sin.
Got it. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Would you lock your child in the basement and burn the house down if they did something wrong?
Would I?
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't do something that wrong.
And the fact that you recognize that there's nothing you could do that could deserve that kind of punishment tells me that your morality is better than your God's.
Well, the book of Job tells us that we're not.
I don't care about the book of Job, Tom.
So he's different.
I don't care about the book of Job. I'm talking to Tyler. You said very clearly that your God is capable of such heinous atrocities as we see in the world today. And you think that because God did it, they deserve it. But there's nothing somebody could do that would cause you to be such a monster. And that is the language of abuse. You're right. That is justifying and enabling abuse. That said, I think we're going to move on to the next call.
All right. Sounds good.
All righty. So let's talk to someone who's not a theist for just a minute. Let's talk to Michael in Florida. Michael, you're live with Eric and B. How are you doing?
Hey, guys, how are you doing?
Oh, I was better an hour ago, but I'm okay. How are you?
Good. I don't blame you guys about the last call. I mean, I just want to say before I get onto my topic that I completely relate to that. Actually, it does have to do with the issue I was raising because this is my second time calling in, but I was the same guy who called in and talked about my experience of leaving a cult. And when I got ostracized or kicked out of the group one time, the reasons that they gave for it was they basically said the same thing, like, oh, we're doing this out of love, or we're doing this because we want you to repent or come back, or whatever sloppy reason that they gave. And yeah, that is very abusive, and I'm very sorry you guys had to put up with that. But yeah, I just want to say that I completely relate to that. But the purpose of my call was, which relates to that, is right now I'm in a situation where I'm still living my life after leaving a cult, and it's improving dramatically.
Good.
I get more freedom. Yes, I get to do what I want in my life. I get to celebrate holidays with my family. I get to celebrate my own birthday. I get to spend more time thinking about my career and relationships, and it's wonderful. I'm graduating college in a month. I'm going to work an internship.
Congrats.
Thank you. A lot of things that I get to do, and if I'd been stuck in that environment, I don't even know if I could even make it to this point, and I just love my life.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah, thank you. And the reason why I'm calling is because I'm not the only person who's left the group that I was involved with. There are about 14 other people who have also left or been kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happened since then is that a lot of us still keep in touch with each other. We talk very often. We have our own group chat, actually. But the issue, the catch, is that everybody else, as far as I know, who's left this group, is still a Christian, except for me. And the dilemma that I'm at right now is that some of the other ex-members get together for a Bible study once a week, and I don't make it to everyone, even though I do show up sometimes. And the reason why sometimes I do still hang out with them is because they're the only people who can fully understand what I went through, because they were all involved in the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The problem, though, is that some of them also know that I don't believe in God, and it actually came up yesterday where I talked to some of the other people for a couple of hours about it, and it went well. Just the problem, though, is that, like, I was afraid of how they would react if they would do the same thing that happened to me in the group that we were all involved with, you know, like basically, which is basically being shunned by the group. And so what I'm thinking is that, like, I really love these people and I enjoy their company. Like, I enjoy having them in my life. I don't think they're bad people. Just the problem, though, is that if I'm there hanging out with them in a religious context, sometimes I feel kind of left out.
Yeah.
Like, I can't relate to them as well. But I still have that strong connection with them because we all came out of a terrible cult. And that's a very meaningful connection to have with. It's like going to war with somebody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so at this point, like, I really love and value these people, but I can't relate to them as well. So what I'm thinking is, like, how in the world do I play my cards right?
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I relate so hard to that. My entire family is still very Christian. My extended family, some of whom I used to be very, very close with, are Christian still. I am, as far as I know, the only non-Christian person in my entire extended family that I talk to, which is over 50 people. And
Wow.
it's hard because, like you said, you have this connection with them, right? They are important to you, and you are you want to stay in touch and you want to build those bonds. But yeah, as soon as I jumped off that train and they kept going, I lost a lot of my ability to relate to them. Some people in my life right now only speak to me in Christianese, right? And I'm like, I used to remember how to speak this language. There are weird things that, prepositional phrases go here, and you're using nouns like verbs, and I used to be able to do this myself, and I can't anymore. And it's hard to have that disconnect. I think one of the things that you can do, and it's easier, I guess, when it's related family because they can't get away from you as easy. But maybe instead of just a Bible study, you guys could find something else to do on a given night, another night. Whether that's going out to do trivia or play or go bowling or play mini golf or something that just simply doesn't have to do with that. And find other things to bond over. Some of my family members will get mad with me if we go down that particular path. But if we talk about the books we're reading, because we like the same genres, or if we talk about old movies, or we talk about, how school's going, then we can really bond and we can really find those places where we have common interests and similar ground. So that would be my suggestion is just move these conversations to a neutral place and kind of stay in that neutral zone for as long as you need to build those relationships to the point where you can talk about harder things.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. I'll keep that in mind, albeit when the coronavirus dies down.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, don't go bowling right now.
Yeah, that'd be a bad idea.
Of course. That I'll see about doing that because, I want to be able to relate to them as people, not do their beliefs because their beliefs change over time. I want to have a relationship with them as people because that's who we all are.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's extremely powerful, and you're doing a lot of the work, it sounds like, in these relationships, going to their events, finding ways to talk to them. And while I understand that it is very valuable to be around other people who have had a shared trauma and a shared experience that you can relate to, and I'm certainly not diminishing that in any way, I would also encourage you to go find people who will make the same amount of effort to get to know the real you. Because a thing that tends to happen across the board, not just with religious trauma, but in general, is you feel like you find someone who understands you and you have to fucking hold on to that person because they're the only one out there who will get you. And it's that's kind of an echo of that past indoctrination, that past trauma of I am unlovable, I am different, I am broken, I can't interact with people well, I have limited options. And none of those things are true. So I would also encourage you, as you are pursuing relationships with these people, because it sounds like you guys have something very special, to also make sure that as you're thinking about going out into the world and finding other people to be with who will give you the same support that you want to give others, that you're paying attention to that internal script a little bit, that internal monologue, and making sure that you aren't taking any holdovers from a past you don't need anymore.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Another thing too, I just thought about this.
Actually, we're running a little short on time. Can I jump in, or you want to?
Yeah, go for it.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Sorry to be that guy, but I do want you to call back because I want to continue this conversation. I got a note saying that if we're going to take our last caller, we need to hop over ASAP, or we're not going to get to.
Yeah, but one thing that
I don't
could
want to take time from you.
But Michael, one thing that I think would be very useful for you as well is to make sure that you're making use of the other forums and communities that are attached to this show. So getting onto the Discord, getting onto the Reddit. There are some really, really good people there who have similar experiences and who are also skeptics or atheists. So that might also be something that you should look into.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much then.
Thank you for
Absolutely.
calling.
Take care. Okay. I didn't feel like I had anything to add to that. Yeah. Wow. Geez, every once in a while.
Just every once in a while. It's fine.
Before we take our last call, I do want to thank our top 5 patrons.
Yes.
It is because of you that we're able to keep doing the show. If you'd like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. That's patreon.com/talkheathen-to-me. If you are one of our top 5 patrons, we will thank you by name, just like we're going to be thanking today. Gary Day, Charlotte Crum, Bethany P, Desert Heathen, and RAO.
Nice.
Thank you. Your support is continuing to help us move forward and do what we're doing. And I know I, for one, really do see this as an important work, and I see it as an important service, and we couldn't do it without you. Thank you to all of our patrons. I had a message from somebody who was talking about, well, just because you can't afford it, does that mean that we're in any way less grateful? And that's just not the case.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's at the $1 level, it's at the $2 level, it's at the low levels that people are able to sustain those kinds of donations, which means that in times like now, when maybe people can't continue to prop up large donations each month, but everybody kicks in just a little bit, and it's less of a hit on the pocketbook, and it's definitely not going to burn the world down around us if 2 or 3 people go, hey, you know what, I really can't sustain this anymore. The more people who are supporting at that level and at that way are really what's kind of keeping us afloat.
Slow and steady.
That's right. All right, let's move on to our last caller. We have got Kevin in New York. Kevin, you're live with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about?
Hey, you guys, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Well, I wanted to talk about
what's up?
Well, how I've come to an understanding that evidence for God is realizing that our reality is systems based on systems, and what I mean by that is, well, first of all, there would have been no definition for the word harmony if that weren't true. That things completely.
I'm sorry, but I think we're in deepity land here. I don't understand what you mean. You're mixing actual things with descriptions of things. You're treating non-corporeal things as if. Let's try that again. You said that there's evidence of God, and the evidence of God is systems upon systems upon systems, right?
Yeah.
What is that?
That's right. What I mean by that is when we look at everything in our reality, we see that things that are completely independent of themselves coming together to form something that would have seemed improbable.
Okay, so something is improbable.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. The improbability of something, does that have anything to do with the food in my pantry? Is it evidence for the food in my pantry?
I'm sorry.
Exactly. You're pointing to existing things and saying that it has to relate to a God that's entirely unrelated, right? We're understanding the world around us, and we're discovering, okay, you know, there are systems that arise out of this physical universe that we're in. We can talk about, you know, water tables and how, you know, rain and evaporation and the moving of tides and currents and all of those things. Those are forces acting upon the world that are part of that physical world. So, right. So you can talk about systems upon systems upon systems. That is not evidence of things in my pantry, and it's definitely not evidence of things that are pointing towards your God. You're talking about something entirely unrelated.
It's not evidence of things in your food pantry, but as long as you have food, that's just another thing.
Right. I mean,
the argument that I hear from atheists though is that the universe has an indifference has an indifferent aspect to it, which is. What's their argument that there isn't fine tuning for
Kevin,
life, especially human life?
Kevin, I want to make sure that we're on the same page here. The response to your argument about fine tuning and what the positive statement of other people is, it's kind of a little hazy. So definitely, if you want to talk to atheists who have a statement about the universe that they want to back up, talk to them. I definitely want to talk to you about your argument for fine tuning, because I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. You're talking about the fine tuning argument.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you something. Would it be better for humanity if there were more habitable, arable, farmable land on planet Earth?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Would you say that would be better tuned for humanity if there were more room and more resources for humans to thrive on the planet?
Well, yes. But
fine tuning doesn't mean optimally tuned. Is there like a margin for error here?
Well, yeah. It's just that I argue that the universe has had to have, from the very beginning, it had to have had a nurturing aspect to it, or else it wouldn't have worked.
Okay, that is sufficiently vague as to be impossible. That's sufficiently vague as to be impossible to respond to in any meaningful way, because I don't think that's a meaningful statement. So let's go back and talk about fine tuning. Right? You're saying nurturing aspects. People are nurturing things. You know, who act upon other things are nurturing. You're now creating this this. It's like people who name their Roomba. You know, you're ascribing characteristics to a non-living thing, and even worse, you're ascribing human characteristics to just the way the universe is, as if physics gives a fuck about you. So let's talk about fine tuning, right? Could Earth be finer tuned? Absolutely. Let's look at the human eye, right? The human eye is brought up as evidence for fine tuning. But here I am wearing glasses. Maybe I'm just a victim of the fall. Okay, well, that's fine. If that's the case, why do we have a blind spot right in the middle of our cornea, right in the middle of our eye? There's a nerve bundle. We can see in nature that eyes have evolved without that major hiccup. How come we don't have that? It seems a whole lot more likely that we adapted to the world around us, and that our bodies are evidence of that slow evolution, that slow growth over time to adapt to the environment that we're in, than it is that we were created for this environment.
But that would imply that that what I said wasn't true. That the nature of our reality has a nurturing spirit, but you would actually say that it has a competitive spirit to it.
I'm not applying animism to. I'm not applying human characteristics to the universe. You're talking about natures. What the fuck is a nature? How can I engage with you in a way that's using language that I neither understand or agree with?
Well, I simply say that because I speak among things that are already surely known amongst everyone. That
really. So why are we disagreeing with you? Anthropomorphic. Thank you, Crazy Jesse, in the live chat. Anthropomorphic was a word that was escaping me. Anthropomorphizing anyway.
It's a common thing to want to do, especially in the face of realizing that the universe doesn't care about you. That's terrifying to realize for the first time. And when you're trying to figure out how you feel about the universe and how the universe, quote unquote, feels about you, the only reference you have are human emotions and human motivations. So, of course, the instinct is going to be to give those motivations and those emotions to other things. And there's an evolutionary advantage to that, right? If you anticipate motive of something coming towards you, you are better able to prepare to defend yourself. But the point we're trying to make here is that we do not ascribe motive or emotion to the universe. So talking about the universe to us using emotive or motivational language doesn't connect. So if we're going to continue this conversation, which I'd love to do at a later time, we're going to have to define terms first and kind of figure out a shared vocabulary so we can actually talk to each other and understand what the other people are saying.
What V said.
Oh, I hear you. It's just that when I talk about this, I try to appeal to the scientific aspect of this because that's the tools that we have, and we can derive evidence for that.
I agree that science is the best tool that we have to understand the universe. And I think that next time we can definitely talk more about that. I would love to hear back from you.
Absolutely. We're getting the voice in our ear saying that we've got to wrap up. But do you see that, at least where we're coming from as a response to that providing characteristics that people have to inanimate things isn't getting us anywhere productive?
I hear you. Yeah. I have to be more specific, I guess. But I'll definitely call again.
Perfect.
Like
Please
plan,
do.
man.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely. Take care, brother. All right.
See, again, it's the you jump off the Christianese train, it continues to go down the track, and you're like, I used to be able to talk like that, and sometimes you can, like, I think this is where they're going with this. It's just when you talk about having a compassionate or competitive spirit, that's not how people talk in the rest of the world. So you have to go back and be like translating, that's what they're trying to say. So hopefully next time that
definitely
we can talk more.
I definitely see a really, really awesome point in there that is resonating for me. And that is, if this is true, if, the God of the Bible is there, then we should find that evidence. We should be able to apply the scientific method and find that evidence.
Yeah.
And I hope he keeps looking, because I hate to say it, it's really, really, it's a huge bummer when you find out that it's not there, but we're not going to police you for thought crimes. You should investigate. I want you to know as many things about this world as possible.
That's what we're here for.
Damn straight. That said, I don't know if we can put up love rings.
I don't know.
But before we do, I do want to say again to our crew on the other side of this town, Mark, Vernon, Paul, y'all are amazing. Please be safe. I could only imagine being all the way over there. Just visiting is the social event of my week.
Yay.
And just please be safe. We love you. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be able to do this for damn sure. You ready to give it a shot?
Let's see.
Holy crap. That was amazing, Mark. You're fucking awesome.
I like to imagine the love rings are like on 35 and just
shooting through.
Yeah. Confusing a whole lot of people.
I love it. So regardless of whether you believe or don't believe, There's a whole lot of empathy coming out of here. We are reading your messages. We're seeing the comments. We're seeing it on Reddit, on Facebook, on Discord, on Twitter. You know, it's tough. It's a tough time. And regardless of whether you believe or disbelieve, take care of yourselves. You know, you're fighting your battles, and we just want you to be okay. For those of you who don't believe, this is your community. And it's not just the atheist community of Austin. It really is the atheist community of everywhere. Because when we can't reach each other physically, we're still reaching each other. We're lucky enough to live in a time where we can. And for those of us who are lucky enough to do so, we're sending you love rings.
Yeah.
And to those of you who do believe, we don't hate you.
We just think you're wrong.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
No, you're done.